I can rewrite a formula for a given variable. Here's what you need to know. Sometimes an equation or a formula contains more than one variable, and you may need to solve for just one specific variable that's within that equation or formula. In order to solve an equation for a particular variable, you need to isolate the term that contains the variable that you want. Then isolate the actual variable that you are being asked to find. In order to isolate variables, we're going to work our order of operations backwards. We get rid of any addition or subtraction being done to the term, and then multiply or divide to break down to the actual variable itself. When you're doing this process, none of the elements of your original equation or formula are being lost. They're just being rearranged. Here's an example. If we're solving for x, I'm going to start by subtracting y from both sides to get the 2x by itself. I'm not worried about x yet. I want the term that the x is stuck in to be isolated. So we're isolating 2x, and then after we do that, now we can divide both sides by 2 to get down to the actual variable we're looking for. Let's do another example. Solve this equation for the variable m. We want to isolate the term that contains m, and that would be 2m. This is the term where my variable is stuck. So I'm going to start with what I'm given. And let's subtract the thing that's in the way of 2m. That would be 3n. I'm going to subtract 3n from both sides, and that gives me this equation right here. And now that I've got the term containing m by itself, now I can continue to break it down and get the m specifically by itself by dividing both sides by its coefficient of 2. And then you get this weird, ugly thing as your answer, but that is okay. Our goal was just to get m by itself, so as long as you do that, it doesn't matter if the other side looks kind of messy, if it looks like a complicated fraction, that's okay. Your goal was just to write the equation and solve for the variable that you were looking for. Go ahead and pause and try this one. Instead of solving for m, it's the same equation, but this time we're solving for n. Let's take a look at what you did. Hopefully, you isolated the term containing the n by subtracting 2m from both sides. Then you should have divided by 3 to get the actual variable n by itself. Now let's try solving a word problem involving a transformed formula. Now we know how to transform one of those formulas. Let's put it into action. Here's what you need to know. Rewriting formulas is useful when we're solving word problems. That's why we just did those last examples and practiced that. Let's consider our distance formula. Distance equals rate times time. So what if we wanted to solve for the rate? I want to solve for r. I'm going to accomplish that by going to my original and dividing both sides by t, because that's what's in the way of r being by itself. What if we wanted to solve for time? I would go back to my original and divide both sides by r, because that's what's in the way of my variable t. So now you've got the same equation, the same formula, written 3 different ways. You have one of them solved for d, one of them solved for r, and one of them solved for t. But all 3 of them are true, and they represent the same relationship. So now, since we've transformed our formula, it doesn't matter what information you're given in a word problem, you have a formula that would work where you can plug in the values that you're given, and then you have extra formulas that you might be able to use. Remember that when we're solving for a particular variable, that's called writing the formula or the equation in terms of that variable. So this first one is written in terms of d, the second one in terms of r, and the third one in terms of t. If you want more on this topic, be sure to check out the Learning Target spreadsheet for additional resources, videos, and practice.